Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Welcome back to Cartridge Based Radio. I'm Donald, and joined always by Brad.
Hey, everybody.
Brad, we played a game this week.
We sure did. Let me ask you a question.
Okay, I love questions.
What was your favorite scene in the movie Jurassic Park?
I believe it's when Dr. Grant was at the base of an active volcano.
And he threw the grenades at the pterodactyls?
Yes.
Or was it where he had the rocket launcher and he fought the Triceratops?
I remember in Jurassic Park when he saw the sick Triceratops, he was very, very sad and concerned for it. In the video game, he pulls out a grenade, pops the pin, and throws it in its face, and it explodes, and then it just falls over. You still see it breathing, but he's like, cool, whatever. It's got armor on the face.
It's a gas grenade, so it just goes to sleep. It's a concussive, fiery gas grenade, but...
Aren't all gas grenades have an explosive element to them?
Probably.
You also can shoot the dinosaurs with darts.
Yes.
And they go to sleep. And the more darts you pump into them, the longer they sleep.
Eventually, they just get an opioid addiction.
Then there's that one sitting in the corner playing a sitar. They put some pillows down to sit on. We are talking about Jurassic Park, the video game, based loosely on the movie and the book.
Yes. For the Sega Genesis. There was a Super Nintendo Jurassic Park, and it wasn't great, but it also wasn't the flaming pile of trash that this Genesis version is. They're very different. It's not like they made it on both and they just did a better job on the Super Nintendo. It's two distinctly different games. And the Genesis one is horrific, and the Super Nintendo one is
For the viewers who are intent on your info dump, I'm going to go ahead and guess you didn't even bother to look this one up, because...
I have it in memory a little bit. It's a first-person game, so it was published by Sega themselves. 1993 coincided with the release of the movie, and it came out that summer. It was made by Sega, and like I said, there was a Super Nintendo Jurassic Park that is a different game altogether.
So this game starts with the memorable scene in the movie where the Tyrannosaurus Rex picks an entire Jeep up in his mouth, and at the same time completely wrecks the island's power grid.
Yeah, it was a very effective day for him.
And Dr. Grant, who's, late 50s, early 60s in that movie, suddenly turns into John freaking Rambo and goes on this solo quest to get off the island, which, if you follow the book and the movie's logic, that means he, in this game, straight up just left those kids.
Yes.
It's like, yo, I gotta get off this island. But Dr. Grant is like, you on your own. Good luck.
Fend for yourself, kids.
You might have to eat each other. Here's a knife.
For those of you who have only seen the movie and didn't read the book, the children are in the book, too. It wasn't like something that was added to the movie to make it more appealing to kids or something. Like, that's part of the book, part of the movie, part of all the stuff that this game is supposed to be based on. And those kids are just either left for dead or not around.
Maybe he has them in their pocket in a Pokeball. So he's like, Ellie, I choose you.
I'd like to think that, in the movie, you see, he doesn't really like kids that much. And maybe in the game, he just acts on that instinct. He's like, I'm so long, kids. I didn't like talking to you anyway.
He found his first gun. He's like, oh, kids, why don't you look at this beautiful sunset? Just keep your eyes on the sunset. And then you just pan out and you hear this... Then he's in the mud crying, just weeping. It's better this way. It's better this way.
Does he just of mice and men those two kids?
He did in the video game version.
Sadly, we don't get a really nice cutscene of that. I think the thing that maybe infuriates me the most about Jurassic Park is that when you start playing it for a good minute, 2 minutes or so, it almost feels like it's going to be a good game. You know, the cutscenes are pretty sharp. The music's not bad. The graphics are kind of that 16-bit animation style where they look really good, but they also make the game really uncontrollable. Like, there's just too much animation. But at first, you're just like, man, this looks great. This music's cool. There's dinosaurs. This game's going to be awesome. And by the end of the first level, you've had to, and probably failed at making like 6 or 7 blind jumps. And you're just like, I want to set this game on fire. And there's 9 more levels of this crap.
That first level does make a really great impression. You're like, this feels pretty good. But like you're saying, that animation is rough. And it looks like green screen photography a la Pit Fighter. So they dress somebody up like Dr. Grant, because you can tell that is definitely not him.
You don't think they got Sam Neill to come down and do mocap for a Genesis game? The kind of money that they had back in the early 90s for that kind of stuff?
It was probably just one of the programmers. He happened to wear the same outfit one day because he really is into Jurassic Park. He's like, let's program this. Like, and the art guy's like, wait a minute.
That is one of my favorite things about 16-bit games is when programmers end up like in cutscenes and like Desert Strike and Jungle Strike, you know, like the bad guys you can tell are just like EA staff members that they just happen to put like a $2 costume onto, and they're like, "No, you're the desert madman."
Everyone, get your best costumes together at Value Village, and tomorrow we're gonna pick who's in the cutscenes. Everyone's like, "Yay!" But he's a much thinner, taller Dr. Grant with like 7 frames of animation for walking, and you never get into like a good pace with the walk because it's like it randomly picks a frame to load in the walk animation, so it's this herky-jerky thing, and lining up to a ledge for a jump is a complete nightmare. And then when you hit the ledge, there's a dinosaur who's like, boo, and just bites you in the face, and then you fall to your death.
I'd say 90% of this game is jumping to a ledge that's off screen so you can't see it, and when you get there, there's a dinosaur right on the edge of that ledge that just like hurts you immediately.
I think in the 90s they called this replay value, because you had to keep restarting the stupid game over and over and over. The one thing I really, by the end of the game, was so annoyed with was the horrific noises those dinosaurs make, which I think were sound files from the movie downsampled to Genesis size. So it sounds like a dying hairdryer every time one of them screeches. And those little things that run along the grounds and like whack you in the feet, that makes those platforming sections easier when a little dinosaur runs up and is like, surprise, you're in the lava. Okay, if you're setting up this exotic park on an island, you're not going to say, hey, does this one have an active volcano? And the realtor's like, no.
Yeah, you probably want to do a little research on that.
Because the first time that goes off, you have just lost all your money and your dinosaurs, probably the guests and the staff. And if you make it off the island, you're going to be sued a lot. So, I mean, in that situation, it's best to just go Joe versus the volcano.
That does kind of remind me of one of my favorite things about the movie, and I guess by extension the book, because I don't think they changed this for the movie, but they build this park on an island off the coast of Costa Rica, so it's like a Caribbean island. Then it gets hit by a hurricane, and they're like, man, we didn't think about that, but hurricanes come through here a lot, and now we've already built this science lab / amusement park for billions of dollars. And we maybe should have thought about hurricanes.
The new movie, Jurassic World, they have a swimming dinosaur. So if like the wall ever breaks during one of those hurricanes and that thing swims out in the ocean, you have just messed up the entire world's ecosystem. That's not smart. It has a scene in the game that was in the book but taken out of the movie. The riverboat chase.
Yes, and it is very true to the book. If you remember in the book, like every 2 paragraphs or so, they have to stop the boat and get more gasoline gasoline out of a can that's just sitting on the side of the river. And that is how it works in the game, too.
Now, Brad, you're a professional riverologist, right? Because I have a river question.
Yes, and that absolutely is the proper terminology. Yeah, I have a master's in riverology from River University.
Rivers are, for the most part, like at the lowest part of the ground, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in Jurassic Park, the game, you go down approximately 35 waterfalls in this mission. Did this river start at like the top of a mountain?
That is possible. If you had a basin at the top of a mountain, they call it an alpine lake, and it collects water, and then some of that water flows, and water just follows gravity, so it would flow down the mountain. 35 waterfalls seems excessive.
But wouldn't it be like a path down the mountain, like when you're whitewater rafting? These are like horizontal rivers that every once in a while has a waterfall, and you just have to fall down the waterfall. You have to pick which waterfall you fall down because some of them will lead to your certain death.
Well, that's how waterfalls generally work. The certain death part. Usually you don't get to pick between two waterfalls, and one is death and one is not. Also, if raft available and there was like a boathouse or something, it means that they navigate this river. Like, you haven't invented rafting down this river. There's already raft there. Somebody thought of this. And you would think that they would have put up signs like, not this waterfall. Do the other one. This is a certain death one. That's like the one where it's cool and you go down a little bit further. Jurassic Park is ultimately kind of a theme park, so it could be that this was a ride. This wasn't just an obstacle that you run into. This was actually supposed to be like a fun thing. Like, you go down the river and you get splashed on the waterfalls, and then like a T-Rex shows up and almost kills everyone, and it's good times.
It was in beta.
Yeah, they're still working out the kinks.
Keep sending employees on it to find out which waterfalls will kill you and which ones are the cool, fun, safe ones. Halfway through your boat ride, there's a second boat you can get into and continue on, which means somewhere when this all fell apart, there was someone on that river and he got ate, and Grant just walks up and is like, oh, here's a boat, I'm going to take it. But what if that person was just peeing in the woods and he came back and he's like, oh no, my boat, my only means of escape. And Grant's like, so long, sucker.
So you think that somebody was in the raft running away from dinosaurs, and then he was just like, you know what? I got to stop for a minute. I really got to pee.
Yes, that is what I think.
Just pull the boat over. I'm not going to go over the side like some kind of savage.
If I'm being chased by dinosaurs, it's already happened in my pants several times over, and I'm completely okay with it.
I wanted to know why you have to keep refueling the boat if you're going downriver, down a mountain. Like, the raft will the current will make the boat go. You don't need an engine.
And have none of the developers of this game ever used an outboard motor on a boat? It's not like you fill it up all the way, go 5 feet, and you're like, oh, out of gas. I mean, that engine has to have like a hole in the side of it, and it's just squirting out as he's filling it. He's like, I don't understand.
It gets like negative 10 miles to the gallon.
He's just pouring it into the water next to the boat. He's like, I don't understand why this doesn't work.
Grant's never used an engine before. He doesn't know how boats work.
So earlier you asked me questions about my favorite part of Jurassic Park. In the book and the movie, tell me about that awesome moment where Dr. Grant gets a Tesla gun.
Why are there so many weapons in this game? It actually makes the game harder to play. Like, you have one button just dedicated to switching through like your 20 weapons. You have to manage the ammo on all of them because they hardly give you any. It doesn't make the game better in any way. I can't think that was like a big like marketing appeal. Like the game has dinosaurs in it. That's like your hook. You don't need to be like, oh, also you get grenades and a machine gun and a Tesla gun and darts and a rocket launcher. Like, give me like one mediocre weapon with infinite ammo and you're set.
And you use the Tesla gun in the most horrendous way. There's the Brontosaurus, which is the most peaceful dinosaur in Jurassic Park, and you charge the Tesla gun up and you shoot them in the face so they'll go down and you can either use them as a ledge or just get past them. Why, Grant? Why? He said he loves dinosaurs, but he just goes on this massive killing spree of dinosaur.
How powerful does this thing have to be? Because you think like a cattle prod is kind of the same principle, and they're really powerful, and they barely affect the cows. They're like, screw you. And they wander away. But it would like knock you unconscious. And like the power that this thing must have to get a brontosaurus to do anything at all.
I believe it lowers its head because its heart just exploded after you shoot it with that thing, because that arc is impressive. I mean, it's a full-on Tesla arc. He's just like, oh, here, I found a Tesla gun in my pocket.
You look like one of the Ghostbusters when you're using this thing.
In the movie and book, there's like one shotgun on the island, but Grant somehow has a complete artillery, Skyrim style, just all over him.
Grant is better armed than like most third world nations.
Oh, and this brings us to the big villain in the game, the T-Rex's head in its 4 frames of animation.
It is an ongoing battle against the T-Rex head throughout the game, and it pops up at inopportune times.
You have to hit it so that it will rear its head back, and then you can run past it, but you can't run past to it if it's angry and flopping its head around.
Just like in the movie, there's just his head like flopping around.
I remember all the great parts where the T-Rex just shoved its head through a plate glass window and started to try to beat you with its forehead instead of its mouth. You know, it really had to think about its life after it picked up that Jeep in the first cutscene in its mouth. And you hear a voice in that cutscene go, "Ah!" It's like the Wilhelm scream. And you're like, who is that? I think it's supposed to be the guy who got ate on the toilet. But they're like, we can't show this. This is violence. Human violence.
Yeah, that cutscene's awesome. The T-Rex just like picks the entire Jeep up in its mouth and just like chucks it. So like, rah! Like it's doing like, you know, a javelin toss with a Jeep.
There's a part in Jurassic Park. Between levels, you get text messages. Well, a wall of text trying to tell you the quote-unquote story of this epic game. And before you get to the visitor center, you get this gem. You'll need all the ammo you can find. The Raptors in the main hall have a bone to pick with you. Who is this person sending you these messages, and how do they know that velociraptors have a bone to pick specifically with you, and they're not just horrible murder machines killing everything? Like, did they leave other people alone, and the people are like, why didn't you kill us? And the raptors are like, we're going to get Grant.
We have a bone to pick with him. Don't warn him, because we don't want him to bring all the ammo he can find.
And why did they just leave ammo laying around the visitor center? That seems dangerous. On a sliding scale, dinosaur to random ammo being laid around, dinosaur is worse on that scale. Like when you go to Jurassic Park, I think the first thing they'd give every visitor is a shotgun. Like, you won't need this, but just in case, wink wink.
You know, it would be a real ironic tragedy if the dinosaurs never got loose, but like some maniac just like showed up at Jurassic Park and started shooting everyone, which is a thing that happens in this country. Yeah, it seems really irresponsible that they have a visitor center, which is like where you would expect your visitors to gather, where there'd be the most people, and it's just strewn with ammunition.
The visitor center is actually the dullest level to look at in that entire game. Like, all the others are colorful, and you know, there's pipes to hang on and secret passages to crawl through, but the visitor center is literally just like floors. And Grant really has something against doors, because you kick those suckers open with a passion.
You know, there's no kick the door open button. You just kind of, I mean, there is that you press up and that makes Grant kick the door open, but that's not listed anywhere. The first time I played this game was with my friend Jay. We were having a sleepover at his house, and we were up till like 3 a.m. just trying to figure out how the heck you open the stupid door. we gotten like that far in the game, and we're just like, we've made all these blind jumps. We've gotten through all this attrition gameplay, but we can't open the door.
Maybe he's pissed at the door too, because you stood there for like 3 hours trying to figure it out, and then you accidentally do it. Well, probably like me, I accidentally did it, and I was like, how did I do that?
Yeah, and then you spent like another 15 minutes trying to recreate it.
He just rears back and just kicks that door clean off its hinges. You're in a building where there's some velociraptors with a bone to pick with you. You try to Sam Fisher your way through there as quiet as possible. You don't just kick a door and they're like, hey, you think that's Grant?
Yeah, the other thing is you might need to close that door again at some point, so it'd be better if you didn't kick it off its hinges.
Nah, raptors don't know how to open doors, which is untrue because that one chases you and knocking open the doors, and he's way faster than you.
Can we talk about Grant's quote-unquote escape route for a minute here? Because these levels just start out like next to the wrecked Jeep, like in the dinosaur paddock, where all the dinosaurs are commingling and somehow not eating each other. Then you go to a power station. You know, a power station would be like a building, and normally if it wasn't the building you were looking for, you'd go around it, but Grant decides to go through the dangerous power station with all the electricity shooting around and it's full of dinosaurs. He goes on a White River rafting tour down Tyrannosaur Mountain, and at some point he enters an active volcano. Like he sees this volcano, he's like, I'm gonna get inside that because I bet there aren't any dinosaurs in there. And then there's tons of dinosaurs in there, and he's like, no, this is fine. This is a good plan. I don't know if he realized at some point, like after the Jeep got thrown, like taking a tour of the park is over. It's escape time. It's not like check out all the sights time anymore.
To be fair, he wouldn't know how to get back to the Visitor Center. But at the same time, someone's texting him telling him where to go, which back then they wouldn't have had phones to text on, so I guess he's just showing up at places and someone has taped these things to the door. Like, you need to turn back on the power plant. You're a doctor. You'll know how to do it.
Paleontologist is the same as an engineer, right?
Bone, transformer. It's like the same thing.
Is it possible that whoever was leaving these notes was just messing with them? They're like, oh, now you've got to go inside the volcano.
It's Samuel L. Jackson's character. What Grant doesn't know is this is all being filmed and broadcast on CBS as a new reality show, Grant on the Island. That first episode where he shot the kids was real dark.
We better lighten things up from here. Maybe add a musical number or something. I'm just imagining like John Hammond like leaving these notes around the island of where to go to next to escape, and like everybody else is like, John, that's not the quickest way through the park, and John's just like, hey, I flew him out here to inspect the whole park. He's gonna inspect the whole park. I don't care if his Jeep got flung. I don't care if the dinosaurs are loose.
Or did he send him on this quest to die so he could never report back on how awful the island is and he wouldn't lose his investor money?
Well, it seems like if you brought a famous paleontologist out to your theme park to give an opinion on it, and then he died, that probably isn't going to win over the investors.
You just tell the investors he refused to leave. He's having so much fun. He can't talk. He's doing dinosaur science man things. He's so happy.
This reminds me of like one of my favorite kind of overlooked plot points of the movie, which is when they're talking about how Hammond is kind of distracted or whatever because his daughter's going through a really bad divorce. And then later on, like, the grandkids come and they visit Grandpa. Now, these are the kids that their parents are having this ugly divorce. There's probably custody stuff going on. It's probably getting really nasty. The kids come to visit Grandpa. He just dumps them off on a stranger that, like, they've never met. And then they almost die, like, 60 times in the course of a weekend. You know, and they've just been completely abandoned by their grandfather. They're just like, go hang out with this strange man you've never met. Go get killed by dinosaurs. And I just imagine when they get back, like, there's no way the mother's winning custody of those kids. You know, the father's just going to be like, yeah, so tell them about the weekend you spent with Grandpa.
She didn't tell me she was sending the kids to Grandpa and going to Dinosaur Murder Island. One thing in the book that I missed from the movie is at the end of the book, the military shows up and just lights up all the dinosaurs. And that would have been perfect in this game if you were like trying to avoid missiles that were hitting the ground, because that would be just perfect for the level of quality here. And the ending just shows the helicopter flying away, and then that 4 frames of animation for the T-Rex pops up in front of everything and is like flopping his head around. It's like, I can hit the helicopter with my face.
I think this is the first time I've really regretted that this is just a audio-only podcast. We don't have video to go with it, because your demonstration of the T-Rex flapping his head around trying to headbutt stuff is just amazing.
If people send us money, I'll record a video of my Tyrannosaurus Rex head flopping. Well, you added the face and the sound. What the heck? Jurassic Park is a terrible game.
Yes.
We both agree. There's nothing good or redeeming about it. Grant's hat is pretty nice.
It is. I feel like we should at least briefly talk about the fact that you can also play as the Raptor, which is still not fun and terrible, but is a neat idea. And I know if we don't mention it, one of our 10 listeners is gonna be like, what about that you can play as the Raptor? That's cool. And it's not. It's awful.
Is our one listener 80 years old?
Yes.
You and your kids not talking about the Velociraptor?
Jurassic Park has one supporter, and he listens to this podcast, and he's 80. But the weird thing about playing as the Raptor is he's hell-bent on killing Grant. Like, you get to kill a whole bunch of people. You know, there's people all through the game. You get to kill them all, and it's great. Not really, but if you're a Raptor, it's probably kind of fun to kill all those people. But you're just, rather than just run around and wreak havoc and eat people, like, you have to kill Grant. Like, I don't know what Grant did to you.
Well, he's got a bone to pick with him, obviously.
I think the Raptor just really liked his hat, and he's like, I'm going to kill Grant, and I'm going to wear that hat. And I'll be the jauntiest raptor.
You're a famous dinosaur scientist.
In addition to my riverology?
Yes, you have your dinosaurology degree. Do you think dinosaurs were pleasure killers? Because when you play the raptor, you're not killing to eat and survive. You are just joy killing people.
I would say so. There's actually, there's food scattered throughout the levels that heal you. And I think you can eat the tiny little dinosaurs, but I don't think you can eat, the bodies of the people that you kill and get health that way. That would be really fun. I mean, relative to the rest of the game. But yeah, you're just, killing for sport. And also maybe a little bit of vengeance, because most of the guards in the game have those, Ghostbuster Tesla guns that they're shooting you with that they're somehow immune to. And also their strategy for keeping the dinosaurs from escaping or eating you or whatever is to stand in one place and just shoot in the same direction all day long. They're like, hope a dinosaur comes this way.
Grant kicks open the door and gets shot with a Tesla gun. Oh, come on.
What the heck?
I actually think the Raptor section of the game is better than the Grant section of the game.
Yeah, that is jumping over a very low bar.
Oh, I mean, you could trip over that. It's just like someone left a broomstick on the floor and you kind of hit your foot up against it. You got caught in a door frame and you fell over. We got a vote. Is Grant the villain or the hero of Jurassic Park, the video game for Sega Genesis? Or is he just an idiot?
I think just an idiot is probably the way to go.
I'd say that T-Rex is the hero. He keeps bursting through the wall and he's like, Grant, I have to warn you. And Grant's like, have a grenade to the face. He's like, Grant, come back.
I kind of want to have somebody make a mod of this game where instead of that bad sounding roar, he just says, oh yeah, like Kool-Aid Man every time he busts through a thing. He's just like, you're walking stage and all of a sudden T-Rex shows up. Oh yeah!
I wish someone would make a mod of this game that made the game not suck.
I don't think there's enough time or talent out there.
Earlier you mentioned the good music, and I agree with you, the music is good until you get to the visitor center and it becomes German house dance music for some reason.
I like to think that's just what they play in the visitor center, during normal times. It's like, welcome to Jurassic Park.
The lights are flashing. I can't see the exhibit. And you have to destroy priceless dinosaur bones at one point and drop them on velociraptors' heads.
And they explode.
Like, oh, we had to fit this dinosaur together with C4. It was the only compound that would hold them.
It's what we had, so, it's malleable, it's kind of adhesive.
Let's hope it doesn't get any electrical current. The velociraptor, hero or villain?
Hero, I guess.
Or misguided.
Hungry.
Or straight up serial killer.
Hates Grant, but after playing this game, I kind of do too, so I think it's understandable.
Maybe a programmer put that in without telling anyone else, because he hated the game so much he wanted to kill the main character.
What would you do to fix this game?
Oh boy. How would I fix Jurassic Park? First level design has to be tweaked a little bit. Maybe the camera is shifted more to the right, so Grant kind of walks on the left side, so you can see things like ledges that you need to jump to.
It would be helpful if it wasn't all like the same color as the background also.
You can tell which ledges you have to jump to because there's a dinosaur standing on the far edge of the ledge waiting for you to get midair before it runs to the edge that you're going to land on. Maybe make a smooth walking animation so you can accurately guess where he will stop his weird gangly gait before you hit the edge. Jumping on boxes that are in liquid, I would fix that because, whoa boy, I'd keep the German techno house music. Just make that on every level. I'd question the designers on the volcano level. Like, did you have this for another game? And you're like, we could drop this in here. You gotta keep the Tyrannosaurus Rex headbutting. But he does now say, oh yeah, like the Kool-Aid Man. Maybe he's wearing a Kool-Aid Man t-shirt. That'd be pretty hilarious. Explain what happened to the kids? Maybe. It's probably not as dark as I imagined.
They were just in the other Jeep, and they're just sitting there chilling out, listening to the radio.
Grant ran up. He's like, I'll be right back, and ran away. And they're like, he'll be back any minute now. And they see a helicopter fly away. They're like, oh, he's bringing help.
I'll be back as soon as I see every single thing on this island.
The T-Rex shows up and's flopping his head. He's like, Grant left. I'm your father now. How would you fix Jurassic Park?
I'd get rid of the multiple weapons and just give Grant like a generic gun with infinite ammo. Get rid of all the blind jumps. Try to make it a little less cheap about getting hit by enemies that are off screen or, like waiting right on the ledge that you need to get onto. But I don't think you can really rescue this thing out of the trash heap. It's a trash heap that's on fire and you can maybe like put out the fire. That's maybe the best you could hope for.
I think the best course of action would be to shove it down in your garbage disposal and hit the little light switch next to it and say it's for the best.
Yeah.
So, how's Jurassic Park the game, Brad?
I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's so bad. We try to keep it positive around here, but we decided this gem had to be talked about, dissected. We had to play it. That's the pain we endured for you, the listener. Any closing thoughts on Jurassic Park?
Most games that are this bad are also kind of not high-profile titles. It's like something that you've like never really heard of, and then you're talking about bad games, and like your one friend who's like a total geek is like, oh, well, it's nowhere near as bad as Dark Castle, and then you gotta like look up what Dark Castle is. This is maybe one of the most high-profile, terrible games out there. Like, people played this game. This was based on one of the most popular movies of all time, and this was a popular, terrible game.
All right, so with that, I'm Donald, that was Brad, and this was Cartridge Based Radio. We will see you next week. Around the corner comes a T-Rex being ridden by a velociraptor like a horse. And I'm like, who is this movie for?
You know what? 10th grade me would have loved, 10-year-old me would have loved that and probably has drawn that on like a whole bunch of folders for his homework at some point.